the psychology of people who enjoy helping others. Silently, have you ever noticed them? They are the quiet architects of a better world, the invisible angels of our everyday lives. They are the person who pays for the coffee of the person behind them in line and then quickly disappears before they can be thanked. They are the colleague who stays late to fix a problem you created, leaving you an anonymous note that simply says, "I took care of it." They are the neighbor who shovels your walk before you are even awake, leaving no footprints, no sign of their labor, only a clear and easy path. They are the secret philanthropists, the anonymous mentors, the silent, unassuming forces of grace and support that move through the world without a whisper. You have likely been the recipient of such an act, and you have been left with a sense of profound and disorienting gratitude, a feeling of having been touched by a kind of human magic. You look for the source of this kindness and you find nothing. A void where a proud and self-congratulatory benefactor should be. And you are left with a strange and unsettling question. Why? Why would someone do something so good, so generous, and not want the credit? Why would they reject the sweet, intoxicating, and universally craved currency of recognition, of praise, of a simple thank you? You, a citizen of a culture that has turned every act of kindness into a potential piece of content, a world of performative altruism and meticulously branded charity, cannot comprehend this silence. It feels unnatural, almost superhuman. You see their anonymity and you may even diagnose it with a kind of cynical suspicion. What's their angle? What are they hiding? The brutal and uncomfortable truth is that the person who enjoys helping others silently is not a mystery to be solved. They are a mirror. They are a profound and uncomfortable reflection of our own deep and desperate addiction to external validation. Their silent act is not a sign of their low self-esteem, it is a sign of a form of psychological and spiritual health so profound and so rare that it has become almost unrecognizable to us. They are not at odds with recognition, they have simply found a source of it that is so deep, so powerful and so internal that the noisy applause of the world is, to them, a pale and uninteresting echo. The primal contract, the ego's desperate bargain for recognition. To understand the psychology of the silent helper, you must first have the immense courage to look at the psychology of the person who helps loudly. You must be willing to dissect the very nature of the hunger that drives most of our own good deeds. The human ego, the I, that you consciously believe yourself to be, is, by its very nature, a deeply insecure and socially dependent entity. It is born into the world as a fragile and fragmented thing, and it spends its entire life desperately seeking a sense of its own reality, of its own worth, in the mirroring gaze of others. This is the great and tragic secret of the human condition. Our sense of self is not an internal, self-generated reality. It is a story, a performance, that we are constantly and anxiously telling to an external audience, hoping that their applause will convince us that the story is true. For most of us, our goodness is the central and most important act in this play. We do a good deed, and we are immediately and unconsciously engaged in a transaction. We are trading our act of service for a hit of external validation. The thank you, the public praise, the social media post about our generosity, these are not just pleasant side effects, they are the entire point of the exercise. They are the psychological payment we require. Each one is a small, neurological hit of dopamine, a fleeting sensation of social approval, a temporary relief from the primal, ancient terror of our own insignificance. This is a form of psychological slavery. You are not a free and sovereign giver. You are a needy and dependent performer, an approval addict, constantly jonesing for your next fix. Your kindness is not a gift, it is a bribe. It is a carefully calculated move in the desperate, ego-driven game of securing your own sense of worth. The person who helps silently is the person who has, either consciously or unconsciously, walked away from this game. Their silence is not a sign of their lack of a need for validation, it is a sign that they have found a different and far more powerful source of it. They have broken the primal contract that binds the rest of us. They have severed the umbilical cord that tethers their sense of self to the fickle and unpredictable applause of the crowd. They have, in a very real sense, achieved a form of psychological and spiritual freedom that is almost unimaginable to the modern, externally referenced mind. The Jungian sovereign, the psychology of the internally referenced self. So what is the source of this strange and powerful freedom? Where does the silent helper find their validation, if not from the outside world? The answer lies deep within the architecture of the psyche, in a concept that was central to the work of the great psychologist Carl Jung, the development of an internally referenced self. For Jung, the journey of a human life, the process he called individuation, is a journey of shifting the center of gravity of the personality. In the first half of life, we are naturally and necessarily externally referenced. We are building our persona, our social mask, our ego. We need the feedback of the world to know who we are. But the great and difficult task of the second half of life is to undertake a profound inward turn. It is the journey of differentiating oneself from the collective, of withdrawing one's projections from the world, and of finding a new and far more stable center of gravity in the self, the totality of one's own being. The person who enjoys helping others silently is a person who has, to a remarkable degree, succeeded in this difficult and sacred work. Their sense of worth is not a fragile and fluctuating commodity that is determined by the daily plebiscite of the digital crowd. It is a deep, quiet, and self-evident reality that they carry within them at all times. They are not playing life according to what Warren Buffett calls the outer scorecard, what the world thinks of you. They are playing it according to the inner scorecard, what you know to be true about yourself. When they perform an act of kindness, the reward is not external, it is internal. The reward is the act itself. It is the quiet, profound, and deeply satisfying feeling of having acted in accordance with their own deepest values, of having been a channel for a goodness that flows from a place deep within them. To then seek a thank you or a public acknowledgement for this act would not just be unnecessary, it would feel like a profanation. It would be to take something sacred, private, and deeply personal, and to cheapen it by turning it into a public transaction. It would be like a great artist painting a masterpiece and then immediately selling it for a handful of loose change. This is a form of power that is almost incomprehensible to the modern, externally referenced mind. It is the power of the person who does not need anything from the world. They are not a performer seeking applause, they are a sovereign, an artisan of their own character, who is engaged in a creative act so profound and so satisfying that the opinion of the audience is simply irrelevant. Their silence is not a sign of their humility in the conventional self-deprecating sense. It is a sign of their profound and unshakable pride, the pride of a person who is the sole and absolute judge of their own worth. The alchemical secret, the transmutation of the deed into the self. We have now reached the deepest and most profound layer of the silent helper is psychology. Their silence is not just a refusal of the performance, and it is not just a sign of their inner sovereignty. It is an active, creative, and profoundly alchemical process. The silent helper is not simply doing a good deed, they are using the deed as a tool for the forging of their own soul. In our modern performative culture, an act is not real until it has been externalized, until it has been turned into content. The act of kindness is not complete until the story of it has been told, until the selfie with the grateful recipient has been posted. We have become externalizers of our own lives. We are no longer the subjects of our own actions, we are the publicists of them. This process of immediate externalization is the death of all true character development. Wisdom, virtue, a solid and integrated self. These things are not built in the public square. They are built in the silent, private, and often difficult furnace of the individual soul. They are the result of a slow, patient, and alchemical process of taking the raw material of our actions and our experiences and, in the quiet of our own consciousness, transmuting them into a new and more expanded sense of self. The person who helps silently is the alchemist of their own character. They understand on a deep and instinctual level that an act of kindness, when it is kept secret, has a unique and powerful kind of psychological energy. When you do a good deed and you tell no one about it, the energy of that deed does not dissipate into the ether of social validation. It is held within you. It is absorbed into the very fabric of your being. It becomes a part of you. The act is not just something you did, it is something you are. This is a profound and almost magical form of psychological integration. Each silent act of kindness is like a single, secret stitch, sewing your actions and your values into a single, coherent, and increasingly powerful whole. You are not just building a reputation for being a good person, you are, in the most literal sense, building the reality of being one. This is why they so often seem to possess a kind of quiet, unshakable solidity, a depth of character that feels so rare in our frantic, superficial world. It is because they are not hollow. They have an inside. They have taken the time to build a rich, complex, and deeply integrated inner world. They are not a collection of performed virtues. They are a person of substance. Their silence is not a void. It is the sacred space of the alchemical furnace. It is the stillness of a deep and tranquil ocean, an ocean that has been fed by 1,000 hidden rivers of profound and secret good deeds. The path of the silent warrior, the choice before the modern soul. What, then, can we learn from these quiet and often misunderstood figures, these people who enjoy helping others silently? They are not just social outliers, they are a mirror. They are a profound and uncomfortable reflection of the deep and often desperate spiritual poverty of our own culture. They show us how addicted we have become to the cheap, fleeting, and ultimately unsatisfying drug of external validation. They show us how much we have come to rely on the applause of the crowd to feel our own worth. They show us how much we have forgotten the ancient and sacred art of building a soul in private. The path of the silent helper is the path of the inner sovereign, the spiritual warrior who is fighting a quiet and relentless battle against the tyranny of their own ego. It is a path of conscious and often joyful withdrawal from the shallow, noisy, and ultimately meaningless game of social validation. The journey for the rest of us, for the ones who live for the thank you, for the ones who measure our worth in the number of likes we receive, is to have the immense courage to ask ourselves what we are so afraid of. What terrifying emptiness are we trying to fill with the applause of the crowd? What profound and life-altering satisfaction are we denying ourselves by our compulsive need to turn every good deed into a piece of public relations? The person who helps silently has given us a great and terrible gift. They have shown us the possibility of a different kind of freedom, a freedom that is not found in the endless and exhausting pursuit of recognition, but in the courageous and joyful discovery of a self that requires no recognition. They have shown us that the ultimate form of self-love is not to demand that the world see you as a good person, but to quietly, secretly, and relentlessly go about the business of being one. And they have shown us that the ultimate form of power is not to have your name known by the world, but to have your character known and respected by your own soul. This is the path. It is a lonely path. It is a path that will not win you followers or retweets. It will not make you influential in the shallow sense of the word. But it is the only path that will keep your mind and your soul alive in an age that is dedicated to their extinction. The world offers you a simple and devastating bargain, your virtue in exchange for a fleeting sense of validation. The path of the silent helper is the refusal of this bargain. It is the choice to be a flawed, complex, and often unseen sovereign, rather than a popular, polished, and utterly empty slave. It is the choice to be a quiet and perhaps unknown force for good, rather than a loud and celebrated echo. And in that choice lies the last and most sacred hope for a future in which the human heart is not just a beautiful performance, but a living, breathing, and world-creating force.